Good morning. Let me say a few words at the start. When I began the oral hearings in Leeds last month, they started in the same way, with my saying a few words. But later in the day, at one of the breaks, a woman who'd been listening came up to me and said that she hadn't known who I was or why I should be saying anything. It wasn't in the programme, after all, and it isn't in the programme today. So something similar was later on said to me by another attendee later on the same day, and they suggested, in fact, more than that, they made it clear that I should begin by introducing myself and not assume that everyone knew. I don't want to repeat that mistake, which has, I suppose, a certain arrogance about it, that I should expect everyone to know who I am, even though I don't know each of you. So let me tell you who I am. I'm Brian Langstaff. I'm chair of this inquiry. I was appointed to chair it on the 8th of February last year by the Minister for the Cabinet Office, David Lidington. The terms of reference were adopted by Parliament, and they were adopted exactly as I had recommended. That was on the 2nd of July last year. They were agreed to by the Welsh Government, as they had to, as had been by the Scottish Government, and by the administration on behalf of Northern Ireland. And that date, the 2nd of July, was when the inquiry formally began, just a little over a year ago. Well, why should the inquiry be sitting here? It is, to me, quite simply a matter of principle. This is a UK-wide inquiry. Indeed, it is the first UK-wide statutory public inquiry to deal with how it came about that so many died, so many were infected, and so many more affected by their suffering, because blood and blood products caused infections which were not prevented or not quickly or sufficiently prevented. What this inquiry investigates has been called by many, in a phrase which deserves thinking about rather than simply repeating, the greatest treatment disaster in the history of the NHS. And it was something that did not respect borders, but affected all parts of the UK. As a result of infections, many suffer from illness or the aftermath of illness, the after effects of treatment, and others from the consequence of their loved ones being ill. It is easier for them to come to an inquiry hearing in Cardiff than one in London. In putting people first, UK-wide, this inquiry tries to make its hearings more accessible to the public it serves. That you are here in the numbers you are, with the press interest that you have attracted, shows how right the principle has been. And thank you all for being here and helping to demonstrate just that. Well, I've already mentioned two of the principles by which this inquiry lives. I set out those and others at the preliminary hearings last September, and I know that a number of you were there, but not all. And those who did not make it may not have heard them, and so if you'll forgive me, I'll repeat those principles. They are putting people at its heart, UK-wide. Being as quick as reasonable thoroughness permits, paying proper respect to every person's right to be heard, being as open and transparent as it is legally possible to be, and being independent of government and frightened of no one in the conclusions it might draw. I'll say a bit more about four of those principles. First, I promised that the inquiry would put people at its heart, that we are here helps to make it accessible to as many as we reasonably can. The way that the room you're in is organised, I hope, makes a statement. The witness is centre stage. The public are in front. Friends and supporters in the front row. In other venues, the lawyers have been to one side and the press to another and myself to another. This particular venue, for all its beauty and advantages, gives us particular challenges. Where were we going to put the lawyers? They need laptops, and the last thing that I wanted was for your view of the witness to be obscured by a forest of laptops before you could even see their face. So I have, you can see where they're sitting, I have behind me what one QC described to me this morning as an assembled orchestra of lawyers. I'm not quite sure how they might describe themselves, but that will do. And their view is not the same as yours, but they don't obscure your view, and the importance is the statement that you, the public, are the audience that this inquiry speaks to. There will be occasions when a witness gives evidence here with a friend or supporter beside them or members of their family. And that's only right because it allows the individual to give evidence in the way which is most comfortable for them. There are rooms to the side where there is space, where anyone who needs it can find it, and the Red Cross are on hand to assist those who find some of the evidence or their own memories difficult. But putting people first is not simply about configuring public space. It's about giving people a real chance to contribute. You know now that the inquiry will be here only for this week, and it may seem to you to be far too short. It's only 1 week. But it will never be possible to hear orally from everyone who would want to be heard orally. But you should know that that is so wherever we take evidence, whether it's in London or Edinburgh or Belfast or Leeds. We don't have the luxury of much time because people continue to suffer and die, and they are entitled to the best answers that we can give. So we have to be ration, if you like, the number of witnesses that we can hear. But within the time that we have available, we shall do our utmost to hear as many as we can. Those who are not heard orally this week, and those in other centres who would like to be heard, but for whom there is no time for them to speak orally for the reasons I have given, will be heard, if not orally, in sessions now, or during, or at the end of the inquiry, when again there will be quite a number of witnesses heard orally. They will always be heard on paper. Every written statement will be read. Each will be different. Each is important. And the evidence of those who have made or will make statements is of real value, whether or not those statements are supported by them giving evidence orally. It is evidence, even if it isn't evidence given from the witness chair. It is evidence on paper, and it will be treated as evidence by me. For those who hesitate, it is never too late to make a statement. The inquiry would like as complete a picture as you can help it paint. And in particular, a number of people around the country have said to me, my experience is so unimportant compared to those I've been listening to. I would feel ashamed to put my experience forward as if it were equal. Words to that effect. Every person's experience is important. It does not matter that people feel modestly that their own experience is not as worthwhile as somebody else's. It is different. It has value. It ought to be heard. If you have not yourselves yet made a statement, please do so. If you know others who have not done so, please encourage them if they can bring themselves to do it. It's by no means easy to bring themselves to do it. Please encourage them to do so. Second, can I repeat what I said last September about paying respect to a person's right to be heard? Putting people at the heart of the inquiry must recognise that people have different perspectives to bring to it. There are those who wish to attribute blame and those who wish to escape blame. Those who wish neither, but on the one hand just to understand why what happened did, or on the other just to explain their own actions. There are those who received blood products, those who were transfused with infected blood, those who were patients, or those who were doctors, those who criticized doctors, those who are deeply appreciative of all the treatment they had. All are people, all are entitled to be heard, and I would ask all participants to respect that entitlement, however unpalatable they may find some of the ideas or explanations or accusations being expressed. Third, and linked with respect for what a person may say, openness demands that the statement of a witness, redacted, that is, blacked out in part, where appropriate, be published when that witness gives oral evidence. Now, some of the witnesses you will hear this week wish to give evidence without their identities being known to a wider public than those of you here. I shall say more about that before each of them gives evidence. But for now, may I just ask you to respect their wishes as best you can. In some cases, therefore, there will be no live streaming of that witness's evidence, although in those cases it is likely that what they say will still be recorded, and that may be simultaneously transmitted. It may not. It depends upon the particular wishes of the witness. And we do our best to try to make sure that everyone is as comfortable as they can be in being helped to give the best evidence that they can. But the cameras which are filming in the room will not take any photographs of you. So please, for your own part, take no photographs yourselves in and around this hall without making sure that the people you're photographing are happy for you to take their photographs. Finally, I'm here to listen. From reading all the witness statements and the documents I have, I know much more now than I did when I began the inquiry. I know more than I did when I recommended the terms of reference just over a year ago to Parliament. I know a lot more than I did at the time of the preliminary hearings. I have been educated in the trips of the inquiry around the country, but I also know that there is much more to learn and a lot that you in Wales have to teach me. The oral evidence heard here will be an important part of that. Can I thank you in advance for that? But can I thank you also for listening to me, for your part? But enough of what I have to say. Thank you. We shall move to our first witness in just a moment.